Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. If you're a longtime listener, you should recognize our guest. We have Lori back on the podcast. It's been a couple of years since we last had her on. As you can see, she's 3 weeks out from her pro debut. And yeah, we're just so excited to have her on and share what she's been up to and just talk about what she's looking forward to in this next show that she's gotten, everything else that's been going on with her. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Lori, thank you so much for coming on.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I always appreciate, coming on your show.
Absolutely. Well, let's just get right into it. What was that moment like when they announced your name and you realized, oh my God, I'm a pro now?
It was pretty amazing. When I got that pro card, I was so excited. I don't even think I slept that night. And I ended up getting 2 pro cards that day. I pro'd in women's physique and I pro'd in the women's overall in the bodybuilding. So it was just amazing. It just kept being so amazing. It's hard to explain. You work so hard for it. You work so hard, and I didn't get it my first swing out, so that was my second year back to masters nationals, and just to get those pro cards and to have them, the cliche. It was a dream come true. It was a dream that I had to go pro and to pro in this sport, and now it's time to use them. It's time to use that pro card. And I actually did pro debut was Masters Olympia, but yeah, so that was
Oh, okay.
that was pretty crazy too.
No worries. Yeah. Again, everyone, I get tongue tied and twisted at least once every damn podcast that I do. So there, we got it out of the way at least here really quickly. But how long did it take for after you won your pro card to realize the one thing that a lot of other people that I've talked to realize is that I'm now a little fish in a big pond now?
When I got nominated, I put in a resume for Masters Olympia. So I put together an Olympia. I had a pretty good resume as far as all my qualifiers. I'd never come less than first or second, maybe 1/3. So I was pretty confident about going into Masters Olympia. And then when I realized who I was going to be on stage with, right? Because you realize that some of the women that I've followed for years are now going to be standing on either side of me. I think it was backstage I really hit me that, okay, I have work to do, and I was going to have to go out there and do battle. And yeah, and then I was back to mid pack again, and that's okay. I knew it was going to be work. I knew that being a pro is using that pro card is everybody thinks like you now. Everybody is in great condition. Everybody is striving for the same thing. So you just I constantly just knew I had to do work. I knew I had to do work. I knew when I was backstage. I knew when I got on stage. I knew when I saw a couple of the size and the conditioning of the women. I was like, okay, I've got work to do. There's work that needs to be done.
Which honestly, if there wasn't, what's the fun of the sport if there's no work to do? Honestly, like I've always made the joke of like once you win that pro card, once you win like the Olympia, it's like now you just got to maintain. I think the mountain to get up there is much more, much more. I don't know what the word is. Much more not valuable, but much more rewarding than just being because I can remember being on championship teams where we had to defend. It was like winning that first championship is much better than, in my opinion, at least defending it was, because then everyone's out to get you because you're at the very top of the mountain. So that's how I wanted to put it, everyone. Again, it was an early morning for me, everyone, if you couldn't tell. So I'm going to power through it. But again, if she's 3 weeks out, she's doing her best too. So we're going to do it together.
We're doing our best. I've been up since 4, so I'm
oh, dear God.
Yeah. I start early days, man. Oh. But I understand what you're saying. When you're at the top and you're constantly defending yourself, that can be just exhausting mentally.
Well, yeah, and I think the mental mind games that you play just even getting up to the top are bad enough. But once you get up to the top where you got to actually like start worrying about almost everyone then and be like, oh my God, are they going to be just as big as me? Or are they going to be just as good as me on that stage? So I think that just the mental mind games just add up even more now. But since we last had you on 2 years ago, what would you say is the one body part that you think that you've improved on the most?
I definitely have improved on my glutes and hamstrings and quads. I really worked on bringing up my legs. The girls who are like in these top categories, they have great hamstrings. They have great quads. You really need to bring in a good lower body because you want to match. Like, I'm not a mass monster, I'm not, but I've got really good.
I mean, hey, I won't say that because I'm looking at you right now, but still.
But I have good symmetry, right? So, really developing a complete back, and bringing in a lower body to match, to make that X frame that I'm envisioning in my mind. It's all about that body that you envision for you in your mind. You can't really compare yourself to another body. So, for me, it was really bringing in the hamstrings, glutes, quads, and then developing more of an upper lat.
That's gonna be a meme that I'm gonna have to make, where when she says, "I'm not a mass monster," and I'll just take a photo of how she looks right now, and just be like, to the general
Oh
public,
yeah.
"I'm
Well,
not a mass
it's funny
monster,"
that
as she's like struggling to fit in the camera, basically. So again, I always love to make fun of the bodybuilders a little bit when they make those
well,
comments
my
and be like,
body dysmorphia is
"Yeah,
completely kicked in at
oh
this
yeah,
point. So,
yeah."
it's on full tilt.
That's why I got to remind them, because like the body dysmorphia is messing with their brain, and I got to remind them it's like, no, you are bigger than 99.99, repeating multiple times % of the population. So yeah, but
I
again,
love the days when you wake up and you're small and fat, like, and people just look at you like you're insane.
so what kind of reactions are you getting right now? Like if you were to walk down the street, what's that like for you?
Oh, I don't go anywhere really right now because I'm just training and dieting, but so I just am kind of keeping to myself. But I get I get like kind of like I get some oohs and ahs right now because it's such a different look. So I'm kind of used to it at this point a little bit, but it's fun. I enjoy it. If I don't feel like um, talking to people or getting attention, I just cover up. I'll put on a jacket, I'll put on a sweatsuit or something, and I'll be fine. But I also train at a pretty competitive gym, so I just fit in. I'm just kind of one of the crowd. But when I do like go out, I always forget. I'm so used to being in a bodybuilding crowd that I'll go to like Lowe's or Home Depot, the pet store, and everybody's like, "Wow." But on the positive end, they look at me and go, "Wow, you look like a bodybuilder," and I'm like, "Oh, good, I am. That's good." So good that I look like a bodybuilder.
I mean, what would you do if someone walked up to you and go, "Are you a bikini competitor?"
Biggest, yeah. I don't know if Sandy would go for that. She's like, "You need to take it down a
If you
notch."
want to really insult them, I guess you can go up to a bodybuilder and ask them if they're a bikini competitor.
Oh, my friends at the gym do that. Like, "You're looking skinny." I'm like, don't say that. Yeah, it's the worst thing
Or
you can
no,
say to
I'd
a
go up to you and be like, "You
bodybuilder.
do realize the point of this is to put on size, right?"
Yeah. Everyone knows that. Everyone's trying to get thigh gap, and I'm trying to close mine. I want my quads to meet.
So what have you done to help grow the legs? Because as someone who is 6'3" as myself, I will take any and all advice.
Well, first of all, being 6'3", that would be hard, even as a female, if you were super tall, because you're just longer. I mean, it's just anatomy. But just work, just heavy, heavy work. There's really no other way to grow legs. You need heavy stimulus, and so just doing those leg days, and pushing everything to the limit. Every rep needs to count. Every workout needs to count. Um, don't miss leg days. That's for sure. Add some leg days. And do working with my coach and working with the experience I have in the past of doing some specific work. Hack squats, regular squatting, um, pendulum squatting. Doing predominantly quad days, and I'll do hamstring days, and then I have a friend of mine. She's a wellness competitor, and we'll just do glute days. I'll do glutes with her, and so just focusing on what needs to be improved. That's one thing. Is after a few years, after you've put on like a nice base, once you've got the overall kind of build and size, and then you start working, then you start listening to your judges' feedback, and then kind of yourself when you're looking at top competitors where you're falling short, and then starting to work on those lagging body parts.
Just has your mentality changed since becoming a pro? Because like it is a whole different, like you said, it's playing a lot of, you got to play a lot of catch up now for a lot of people. That's what they feel like when they get their pro card. But has your mentality changed at all when it comes to just your overall opinion on the sport now that you're actually in the pro league? Because like I remember talking to like either like baseball players or NFL players, like when they get to the league, their perception on the league might change a little bit because they're an actual member of it now.
Mm-hmm. My perception is that there is no off season. My former coach told me that immediately when I got my pro card. He said, now there's no off season really. You're going to be on all the time if you choose to compete as a pro. A lot of people get pro cards that whatever, but he's like, if you choose to continue this journey, there is no off season for you. And I said, okay. And then realizing that you need to also be an example for the sport and promote the sport. You need to have a positive attitude. You need to be able to do the work and show up and do your job as a pro. You know what I mean? Like doing interviews, being accessible. I could crawl in a hole right now because it's prep. But
believe me, she tried, everyone.
No, I didn't.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
I know. It's just one of those things. I'm okay. I'm a bodybuilder, so everything's planned, right? We're planned. I think in
Lori,
my heart,
you don't need to tell me twice. I've talked to hundreds of bodybuilders. I know exactly what you're talking about.
We are planners, and so, but it's you make a plan, but it doesn't always work out.
Oh no! Again, I have no ill will to anyone because I realize how busy your schedule is. Like I told her before, doing this has made me realize how dedicated you guys are, and it also made me realize how I never would want to do it at any point in my life, just because of how dedicated you have to be with the time alone. Not even counting on the other stuff, just the time commitment alone. I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's. Whereas when you're talking about with your pro card, I would be that one guy who, the moment I win my pro card, I'm quitting that day and just being like, you know what? I did it. Let's go. Let's give me some Costco hot dogs. I'll be
exactly.
Fine
Where's the Cinnabon?
Exactly. What's one food right now that I can't mention to you? Otherwise, you'll just start drooling.
No, I actually, at this point, I'm pretty good. Like I know that it's like a few weeks out, so to me, it's like such a short amount of time. So I really don't think about it. I'm not one of those bodybuilders who's really into the food porn. Like I know a lot of people like to look at baking recipes and do stuff like that. I don't really like to do that to myself because I don't like to light my brain up. So I just like to stay in my groove, man. I just keep so yeah, there really is no food because I like all food. So there wouldn't be one in particular.
I mean, because that's an extreme mental illness, or the ones that when they're doing their cardio, they watch like the Food Network, and you're just like, why do you like to torture yourself?
Yeah, I would never do that. I even usually I like to cook and bake. I even mute those pages for a while when I'm on prep. I just do my thing. I try to keep busy.
What's your favorite thing to cook and bake?
Oh, what's my favorite? I love to do steak. I'm a big steak girl, burger girl. I like to cook all kinds of foods. So, but baking, I like to do a lot of pie. Like I like to make sugar-free pies. So like blueberry.
We're getting into the season of pumpkin pie, my favorite pie, so we're getting close to it. So
I love a pumpkin pie. As soon as pumpkin's off season, I have to almost be careful. But I have these great sugar-free recipes for pumpkin pie, so just have at it.
My parents are growing pumpkins in their backyard, so when it gets time to harvest, I might help them make something of it. But yeah, it's
that and apple pies and pumpkin pies, like all winter long, because you can make them sugar free and they're healthy, and I know what's in them, and they're easy, and they're good for you too.
You want to hate me? I have never liked apple pie in my life. That's the one weird thing about me, I swear.
Yeah, well, you're either pumpkin or apple. You like pumpkin, so.
Well, I will say though, that's the one thing that I tell people. Like, is there anything weird about you? And I go, well, I've never liked apple pie, and then that normally is enough to break the ice. But yeah, that's the one time that I really got to mention to people, like, my food taste is a little bit off there. But as you're getting ready for the show, like you said last night, it was the first night that, like, when you got up, you were feeling dizzy. Is that normally around par, like around the 3-week span when you start to feel the effects, or has it gotten earlier or later this prep?
Well, so my Masters Olympia was my first pro prep, and that prep was really up and down. I wasn't feeling so good that prep, so that I don't really. I had done regionals, done my nationals, and then I went right back into nationals. So I had not given myself a break in like 3 years, and I was pushing really hard. And then I qualified for Masters Olympia, and at that point, by the time I got to Masters Olympia, I was starting to get sick, and I wasn't feeling so good. And I was just like, but at the end of the day, you're a pro. I need, they invite you to this prestigious event. You're going to go and show up, and you're going to do the best you can, which is what I did. And But for this prep, there was a lot more rest. My off season was a lot more solid. But everything, my medical and blood was all on point. And I just feel like it's gone a lot smoother. But there is a point where the rubber hits the road and you need to be in that calorie deficit to get those shreds. There's no other way to explain it. Like, that's what it is. So it's just that, like, as the carbs start to go out and you're still expending that amount of energy, you just, it is what it is. Your brain's not getting fat. It's not getting sugar.
Can you do a quick PSA for the podcast while we're recording here still, and just look into the
Sure.
camera and say, competitors, get your blood work done?
Competitors, get your blood work done. I get my blood work done like every 6 to 3 months, just to see where I'm at health-wise. I also do my blood sugar and my blood pressure at least once a week, because I want to see where my blood sugar's at and I want to see where my blood pressure's at. I have my own blood pressure cuff, and once or twice a week, I do my own blood pressure, which is awesome right now. I also do my blood sugar. I want to see how my body is reacting. And you know what I mean? Because a lot of people are responding to prep and they don't understand why, and they don't get their blood work done. And the thing too is, I go to a sports doctor to read my blood work because of the amount of exercise and stuff I do, and the amount of muscle I carry affects my blood work. So numbers that would be a little high, little red, to a regular doctor, a sports doctor who's used to dealing with athletes is going to be like, oh, your muscle mass is really high. This is what not as bad. You know what I mean? So it takes experience, though. This is not stuff that I learned like day one. This is stuff that I've learned. A lot of this I just learned in the last 2 years as I've gotten to, higher and higher levels.
Well, thank you for saying that, because yes, so many times I talk to people and they go years without getting their blood work done, and then it's like, that's really playing with fire right there.
Yeah, and phlebotomy and keeping your health in check. Checking your yeah, there's so many things that you can do to prevent future destruction, because you want longevity. I mean, you're going to have an exit plan eventually. No one's, you can't do it forever. So you want to be healthy at the end of the time, and you want to promote health in the sport.
Oh, and I will say, since I had my own journey with it, you can tell how much size I put on in between when I was in college. So this is my freshman year of college. This is what I looked like then. And then look at my neck and everything like that. That's my junior year. So I had trouble breathing at night, which was the problem, because my neck got too big. That I would literally have, it was like almost sleep apnea, where like I would just wake up choking some nights. So then I went to the doctor and they're like, you got to tone things down just because of your size is too much and it affects your breathing. So that's why I took things a step down now, and I'm slowly starting to get back into things now. But that, I always use that as my story for people when they're talking about, like, just know your limits and don't push things too hard on your body. And again, everyone's body's different. There are some people that can push themselves 100 times more than I could ever do, and that's, more power to them. But it's like, know your limits and know to the point when it gets like that you need to maybe slow things down a little bit, because that's the most important thing that I'd like to talk. That I love, the message I like to put on this podcast is that health first before anything, because again, it's a bodybuilding show. It should not be a death sentence or a life or anything like that when it goes to it. So
yeah, and some people just don't have the constitution for it. Body, like any sport.
Like 95% of the people
everyone's
do
not designed to be a sprinter. Everyone's not designed to be, 100-mile-an-hour pitcher. Not everyone's designed to be a bodybuilder. If you would get into bodybuilding and all of a sudden your health plummets and your blood pressure skyrockets and your cholesterol skyrockets, this might not be the sport for you. You might have, a lot of people don't even realize they have underlying issues until they start bodybuilding.
Well, I was a pitcher who topped out at 92 miles an hour before I got hurt. So thank you for bringing that up, Lori. But no, I'm kidding.
Well, that's pretty badass.
No, well, I was in high school, and then I got hurt, so I wasn't able to play sports in college. So hence what led me into working out even more seriously, because like I've told people before we start recording, those high school workouts that they have you do, where it's like, go do lat pull downs with 5 other guys for half an hour, and you're like, yeah, coach, got a really great workout in. So I hated those. They were the dumbest things ever, where you get like 3 different lifts in.
I think that college lifting rooms are some of the most dangerous places of.
Oh, I'm talking about the high school lifting rooms. They're the worst. Yeah, those are like
high school. In fact, I was because I'm a trainer too, and I was training a softball girl, and she's a great pitcher, great softball. She's playing college now, and they literally, her first week at college in the lifting room, they had her doing deadlifts, and she hurt her back. And I'm like, why is she deadlifting? She's a pitcher. Like, she could, there's so many different exercises she can do besides a deadlift. And they're probably not even watching them do it or teaching them correctly. So anyway, now every college coach weightlifting person.
As
Until
a
I hit
pitcher,
P5.
all it is back, shoulders, and legs. Really, the only things that you really need, and core, I guess. But anything
Well,
other
you
than
need to control forward momentum, but you can be done with, other leg
oh no, believe me,
exercises.
I understand. I never really did deadlifts when I was working out for pitching. It was a lot of other leg exercises that I would do. Squats were a big one, and then I do
sled, a lot of pushing and pushing
Yep.
the sled. There's all kinds of different leg strength, leg extensions, sled pushing, stuff that where they actually you learn to control that force.
The biggest one were the side cables for chest too, especially being a pitcher, so that it would kind of imitate throwing a little bit and doing all that. So there's so many little things that you can do, but I mean, you've been in this sport for quite a while. What has it been like to see the sport evolve and change as it has? Where like it's more and more women, it's becoming more popular to work out. What's that been like as someone who, when you started, and especially even when I started doing this podcast 6 years ago, like women, it was starting to slowly pick up, but then over the last 6 years, it's really taken off. What's that been like, just as someone in the industry, to see it gain popularity and see more and more women realize that, like, yeah, I should be working out.
I think it's really great. I think that even as we see people progress, and I just see fitness growing online and on Instagram and TikTok, it's just really cool because during COVID they closed all the gyms down, they closed everything down, and I think the fitness industry was kind of like, wow, this is pretty dramatic. But I think that since we've opened up, fitness has become more popular than it ever has. Like you see, every girl I know wants to do bikini and wellness and or train or power lift or just some sort of weightlifting or CrossFit. And it's just really cool to see everybody's enthusiasm and how they approach these different weightlifting sports. And honestly, it's as we get more and more data on muscle mass pertaining to your health, I always tell anyone over 30 that they should be, any female over 30, that they should be lifting weights. Like, you just cannot. If you want a quality of life, you need to lift weight.
Are you stalking me? Because I just turned 30 myself. So you're mentioning very specific things. First, it was baseball pitching. Then it was 30. So I don't know, Lori. But again,
Well, there's a reason we get along, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's 100%. And just as you're getting ready for this show, like you said, what would be like an ideal placing for you or finish for you? Like, what would be a placing where you say, like, you know what, I'm happy with that?
Well, I want to win.
Well, I know. I want to win the
wanna,
Olympia. I want to win the Olympia too. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
I'm going to like bring it into fruition.
That's fine.
First call outs, top 5.
Yeah. I was going to say, I want to win the Olympia too. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. So I can have my own dreams, but no, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're not going to, I'm not saying you're not going to win, but
and it's, bodybuilding is who brings what on that particular day. A lot can happen.
Again, so. I'm not saying you're not going to win. I know, but it's
just no. But I'm just like saying it out loud. I feel like I'm manifesting it or something. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't want to say anything. I just want to like.
Are you one of those vision board people?
I'm an eternally optimistic person, so I always just try to go in there with the best attitude I can too.
Are you one of those vision board people?
No, I'm not organized enough for a vision board. I'm a list planner. I get up in the morning and I have my coffee and I kind of brainstorm.
Yeah, I could never do a vision board myself, and my list is literally just a notepad that I just write down what times people are coming on, and that's about as organized as I get, just because I have that type of ADD.
I tried the vision board thing, and it just was. I just had a bunch of stuff up there, and I was like, where I'm just like, okay, if I write down, I have long-term goals, how to get there, midterm goals, and then the daily things I need to get to do that goal. That's how my mind rolls. If I have a vision board, then I just have like a collage.
And then we were talking about before we started recording the veins too. At what point do they start to come in, or are they in all season?
Oh, they showed up about a week ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is like one of those things where you're kind of genetically or have the constitution for it. So yeah, because it always makes me kind of laugh because my dad was one of those guys who didn't have to say a word. The veins would just start popping out on him when he was like upset with you, like if you didn't mow the lawn the first time he asked you and stuff, So now every time I see him, I kind of laugh. Makes me think of my dad because he would be like,
Eugenetics, you're genetic freaks, I tell you. Just hey, that's a nice problem to have, having the veins come out, because like I told her, I could be at 1% and I don't even know if they would pop. I'm just one of those. I got my Norwegian skin where I guess it's more just to, I don't know, it's probably with the heat or something like that to try to make it so, because you're in a
So
cold
nice and
climate.
smooth. You're nice and smooth.
Yeah, I have my
But this is the
Twilight.
first year I've actually
First
got
of all,
white
look
veins,
at
so I'm
this.
really proud of that.
Anyone wants to talk about how pale I am, just look at how the sun reflects off this side and how dark it is. Just look at that difference right there. It's night and day for me. I'm two-faced basically on the thing. So
I'm right with you.
I can't even go shirtless at a beach because then it'll just be like Twilight, where I'm just so bright that I'll probably melt people's faces or something like that. Yeah, exactly. It'll be like Indiana Jones all over again. I just can't do it, everyone. So, there's that. But being that you're in, California where the weather is nice all year, I know that obviously I know that bodybuilders, and again, my little brother lives in San Diego, so he'll send me like the 3 days a year.
He gets better weather than I do. I live in the Bay Area, so we get all the rain and the sun.
He'll send me the 3 days a year that it's raining just to mock us and be like, "Oh, hey, it's raining for the second time this year, and it's like in July," and you're like, "Oh, that's great." But do you ever feel any extra added pressure being that you live in a place where it's nice year round to maintain like a decent body year round, even if you're going through off season, just because of the climate and like everyone's always seems to be beach ready?
No, because I live in the Bay Area, so we're not quite as competitive as like Southern California. So Southern California is a little bit more of a competitive atmosphere like that. So that's how I feel. So some people you feel free to disagree with me, but my for off season for me is it's about putting on quality size. So I'm down with the thickness, and as long as I'm tight, is like not getting too loose or developing cellulite. So I'm looking at it more of it from an athlete's point of view. So and not getting too heavy. Like if I start feeling like you said, I'm having trouble, you walking around. So like I don't mind. Like if I can get up to I can pop up to 190, 193, like nobody's business. I don't feel good at 190. I try to stay around 185 ish.
Well, I'm at 210, but again, I'm 6'3", so it's a little bit different. But
well, yeah, there you go.
How has no one came up with a down with a thickness T-shirt yet? That seems like that's an easy one.
I know. No one's trademarked it yet.
Well,
I always like steak and cake. That was always my favorite.
Since you came up with it, I'll give you the rights to. I'll let you get it first. I won't do it myself.
And I'll start wearing it everywhere. You design it, and we'll trademark it together. And that when people used to ask me how I did in the off season, like how do you get so big? I'm like steak and cake, two of my favorite things.
So we see on your shirt, Bay Area Bodybuilding Academy. Is that the gym that you train at, or?
No, actually, I train at the lab. This shirt was because I was in a hurry. But I do know the people from Bay Area Bodybuilding Academy, Nate, and then my former coach, Monty, who owns Kinetic Chain next door, who does all my body work. But no, they're a local Bay Area gym. They're really good. My home gym is actually the lab in San Ramon. And it's owned by Bodies by Bobby. And that's my gym. But I need to get them to make a nice tank top for me because I have T-shirts, and so I'll tell Bobby I need a nice tank top to wear on the podcast.
How often do you go and get massages? Because for me, like I just started like a year ago, and I am hating myself that I waited that long to do it.
Off season, I'm every other week. This close to the show, I'm once or twice a week. Yeah, and then he also is a bodybuilder. He's a very good poser. He's a really great bodybuilder in his day, so he knows how to work on bodybuilders. He knows that I need to like open my lats. So a lot of times he'll do body work and then we'll pose. So I'm really lucky in that aspect that he's good like that. So, but yeah, this close I'll be in once, twice a week because you just get crunchy. You get to where like even in the mornings when I practice, because I practice in the morning when I'm fasted. And, I'll have like after a few days, I just can't pull a good lat spread. And so then you go in and he goes in and he'll open everything up and open up your hamstrings and your glutes and your lats. And then you're like, I can pose again.
When you won your pro card in physique and in bodybuilding, was there any hard time on deciding which one you wanted to do, or did you always decide like, hey, I wanted to do bodybuilding over physique? Or
I actually always loved bodybuilding. And I didn't know if I could get the size. I don't think I really didn't know if I had the size yet for bodybuilding. I know I could get big in the off season. My first nationals, and they don't really in the Bay Area, like out here in California and Bay Area, all your regionals are physique. There's no women. You can't get is no like really regional women's bodybuilding. So I had to do physique just to get nationally qualified because like there wasn't any women's bodybuilding shows. So to get qualified. So then I didn't know quite where I was going to land. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 45, 50 plus physique, and then I'll do 50 plus women's, BB, and we'll see where I place. And I always was consistently high. Actually, first year I got like second in women's physique, and then I won my division, my category, but I didn't win the overall in bodybuilding. And the next year I won the pro card in physique and the overall in bodybuilding. And I just love bodybuilding. I loved it. I didn't want to have to like hold back at all. I like to go train heavy. I don't, mind putting on size. So, and I think I keep a feminine look too, so which I appreciate.
No, absolutely. And when it comes to your training, what is one lift that, like, if you were to put on your gravestone, like, she did this for this, what would be the one thing that you'd put on for like the one lift that you think would be the most impressive thing?
I would say squat. I think squat, when it comes down to building your legs, you cannot not have a good squat. You need a good squat. You need to be able to get in there and do scary weights some days, and then some days you got to get in there and you got to do those Platts reps, which are just as scary and horrible, and then you just got to go to failure. So I just think that this just makes a nice big leg.
I've never revealed this on the podcast, but for me, it's leg press. I'm not going to go into how much it was, but I'm just going to say it was a lot of plates. And I don't even want to say it because I don't think anyone would believe me on here. But when I was at my peak and I was doing leg press, that's probably the one thing that I'd get buried with. I'd put the total down then just so that people would be like, there's actually video of it too, people. And I will release it if I ever feel that like people start to get a little too like, oh, why this guy doesn't look like he trains, and I'll just show them the video of me doing that then. So that's my trump card then that I play at the very end of it. But when you're, getting ready these next few days and you're going through prep brain, are there any like fail safes that you have designed to make sure that you don't like accidentally give out your social security card number or you don't like accidentally do something really dumb?
When my brain in the morning, in the morning when I'm just like, I feel like I'm most together in the morning, that's when I write everything down that I need to do. And then I stick to that list and I carry it with me all day. And then if I need help with anything, I'll ask my husband. Like if I just like some stuff in the afternoon that I don't think I could deal with, and he'll help me out. He'll go pick up stuff for me. But yeah, I just make lists. I make lists when I'm solid, and then I just make sure I carry that list with me everywhere. Though I have done some really weird things. I was going down the freeway last year, and I kept feeling this breeze. And I'm like, what is that breeze? And then I look in my mirror, and my hatchback on my car is open. And I was like, oh, okay, you're having a really good day today. And what made me what really irritated me the most was that no one like drove by me and like pointed at me or like let me know that my hatchback was
They saw you and they're like, I don't want to upset that lady. Look at her.
So that was one of those days when I was like, okay, you think you have it together, and you're like, I don't have it together.
That's one of the times where being a bodybuilder doesn't work out for you, is because people are so intimidated sometimes that like they wouldn't want to warn you because they're like, I don't want to get her mad.
I know, that's really funny. I always laugh at that. That people are always like, oh, I wouldn't want to arm wrestle her, or I bet, or they'll say something to my husband about, I bet the dishes get done. And I'm like, it's so funny that people automatically click over to that in these days and time. It's like, no, pretty much.
Well, especially when I meet some of the guests in person, they realize how tall I am, and then I'm like, yeah, I can rest my elbow on your head. Like, like it's not, yeah, we're not, yeah. So no, I always find that hilarious. Which again, I find that great though too. Just especially when you meet like the really short ones, and they're just so dense and packed that it just looks. It looks incredible, but it also looks like I'm trying not to giggle a little bit down just because it's funny when they're a little bit shorter. But
it's so smokes and mirrors, and they look so good on stage. It's like, I remember I was at a regional qualifiers. I think it was San Francisco, and there's no height category because there's only two of us, and she was like really small, and I'm still like 5'6", so I'm not like,
but that's tall for a
so I look like a
bodybuilder.
giant
Yeah.
next to her because she was like 5'2".
Mhm.
And I was just like, okay, she did. She made me look really big though.
No, yeah, absolutely. What was that like too when you talk about it a little bit, but like stepping on stage finally against like people that you've been following for years? Like, what was that like to finally be like, oh my God, I'm sharing a stage with some of these people that I've known for at least on the internet for years?
Well, first of all, I'm like, I'm just excited to be there, and back there, and and but trying to like be confident in myself too, um, but just like wow, here we are, here I am, here they are, quite there, but I can get there. I could see that it was achievable, that I had made that step. There was one point when I think I was when they called out the lineups, and I got they put me in the middle. I was actually dead center, right? And Rashana was on one side, and I think Jay Fuchs was on the other side. And I was actually kind of internally laughing a little bit because of course I'm there, but I was in my mind, I'm going like, dude, I'm gonna be here for like a hot second. I'm like, yeah. So I was there for like 30 seconds, and they're like my number, and they moved me.
Were
And
they just playing a practical
but I
joke
was
on
there
you?
for a second,
Were
and
they
I
just
got
playing a
there.
practical joke on you, honestly?
Yeah, but I was there, and I was like, okay, do your best. Just suck it up, get it, pose, do it. So.
But honestly, like, what is going through your head when they call you to the center? Because, like, for anyone that's not that familiar with the sport, like, that means that, like, if you stay there, you're either gonna win. You're more than likely gonna win it, or at least finish second.
Well, when you're in the center, so when I get in center, I feel like, okay, I gotta do battle now because they put you in the center for a reason. So now they're either comparing everybody off of you, right? Or they're rotating you from center to left and center to right. If you're staying in that 1, 2, 3, that means they're moving people around, comparing against each other. So I always get like kind of a battle mentality. Like, this is not the time to like, lose your lower stomach or, slip up for a second. You need to keep your head in the game, your center square. You want to hold that square, right? So, and just because you hold that square doesn't always mean you win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I'd say it's like 75% of the time, because there's plenty of times I've heard where someone who's in the center square the whole time, they finish like sometimes even like third or fourth. I've heard sometimes.
Like second, yeah, because you don't realize that they're actually comparing. They're still comparing the people on either side of you. So
how do you deal with the mind games of that too? Because like bodybuilding enough is a mind game, just even getting ready for that show. But when you step on that stage, the mind games almost just begin.
Actually, I like to get to a point where I'm just in auto zone.
Okay.
So, everybody wants to come in a condition to where you're so conditioned that your posing isn't struggling, right? Because I, this is how I feel. I feel that if I'm in my condition that I should be to be on stage, I shouldn't be struggling. So I can really focus on put you know presenting myself properly. And I think that is the biggest challenge when you're on stage, is not letting the adrenaline or the excitement, keeping your head in the game, where the light is, stay under the light. They spend hours putting those lights up usually so that the light hits you in just a way. Stepping forward, I'm going to give away secrets now. Stepping forward or backwards can put you in the shadows, right? So, you have to keep your head in the game. Always keep, you're a sports guy. Got to keep your head in the game, man. Who's where, what's doing what, where are the judges, where's the light? I'm in center square. You spend all year long, you spend years preparing for what? 2 minutes? You keep your head in the game. Just like, so I like to go in there with my posing tight, knowing my mandatories, and just, keeping just everything in track, like knowing what's going on. You know what I mean? Don't get too caught up.
Well, and when it comes to coaching, I love to ask this question too to a lot of people: is what, in your opinion, makes a coach a good coach? Because with all the coaches that I've, heard people talk about, it seems like there's more bad coaches than there are good, just because everyone thinks that they're a coach now, unfortunately, in this day and age. But
Yeah.
in your own personal experience with having, had multiple coaches in your career, what, in your opinion, makes a coach a good coach? Yeah.
One died.
Oh well.
That's how I got the second one.
Yeah, that's a good way to lose a coach, I guess. So yeah.
I'm kind of loyal.
Yeah. But what, in your opinion, makes a coach a good coach?
Someone who puts you first, your health first, you first. I always like someone who asks how I'm doing. How are you doing? Your coach doesn't ask you how you're doing. Someone who is concerned, has a good grasp of your health, experience, track record helps, right? You can be a shitty coach and have a great athlete. You can be a great coach and just have an athlete that never comes up to snuff, always, but I really, I'm not into someone who is very super supplement orientated. I mean, there is a certain amount of supplementation in bodybuilding, but I don't think that a coach that heavily relies on that. Anyone who's willing to jeopardize your health for a trophy, right? So anyone who's willing to jeopardize your health for a trophy, first red flag. Never ask you how you're doing, right? Doesn't care how you're doing, right? And has your health and longevity in mind, right? And responds to you quickly. And if you ask them a question, they answer you. You don't hear them back in 3 days, and stuff like, there's red flags and stuff out there.
Yep, absolutely. And when it comes to just the posing, have you mixed things up at all posing wise?
Oh yeah. So for me, posing for me is like my hardest hurdle, because I need to learn to present my physique, right? And that was the one feedback I got at Masters Olympia, from Steve, was that I was in good condition, but my posing just needed a ton of work. And so I've just been working on practicing and practicing and working on that posing. And because at the end of the day, you want to be a bodybuilder that people want to look at. You want to, that's the whole point of the sport. Like, you want to be a bodybuilder that people are like, wow, you really put together. So you can have the best physique, but if you can't present it, as people have said, you're screwed.
Oh, absolutely. You could have the physique of Andrew Sean. If you pose like me, you're not going to win.
Yeah. So it all comes together. And that's another part of like being on stage and keeping your head in the game,
Yeah, absolutely. And just with this whole, mindset that you need to have as a competitive bodybuilder, are there any other aspects in your life that this mindset has helped you with? Because I've always said if you can compete in a bodybuilding show, you can really do a lot in life, especially when it comes to just the mental strength that you develop.
Oh, everything. Everything. Just the discipline and the planning and the mental fortitude and the inner strength that you develop and the confidence that you develop, is just exudes in all aspects of my life, with my clients, with my home. You know, you Yeah, I can't honestly see where a part of my life that has not affected in a positive way. I mean, it's just, there's just, I plan my food and how I drink my water, and I focus on my sleep and stress management. I mean, I'm even aware of, like, how I manage my stress, how stress affects chemicals in my body. Like, you're just so on top of things on so many levels that I almost don't want to say this because it's probably not going to make people happy, but I feel sorry for sometimes for people, because I'm like, the amount of things I've learned about myself through bodybuilding, my mind, my soul, my physiology, my anatomy, how my body works. That knowledge is, when I'm done with this sport, is gonna, hopefully, unless there's an accident or,
Knock on wood.
yeah, hand of God moment. I'm gonna live a beautiful and happy and fulfilling life with all these skills I've learned. But definitely, like, the discipline and the stick with it, because I always tell people with bodybuilding, it is inherently mind-bendingly, boringly sport sometimes. It takes consistency and patience. Consistency and patience. You don't quit. Like, you can't quit. well, a lot of people quit, but I mean, you succeed in the sport, you have to push your body, you have to push your mind, you have to be accessible, you have to be reliable, consistent. So these are a lot of aspects of character that you don't really see a lot anymore.
No. I agree with you 100%, and thank you for saying that's boring, because I would never say it myself, but now that you said it, I will enforce that. We're like, yeah, it can be mind-numbingly boring at times, just going through the same routine, but again, that's what makes it hard, and that's what makes bodybuilders their own different breed, because they're able to go through that and still look at the prize at the end of the
There
tunnel.
are meat and potato training that you do. And I tell people, they're like, how did you get that physique? And I'm like, I do this and this and this. And these are movements that I've done every week, probably for like 15 years in different variations. Right. And I'm like, so I warned them, oh, you want to weight lift? You want to build a physique? Well, then get ready for the inherent training.
Yep.
You have to love it. Like you have to, it's like anything,
Absolutely. Well, and I was messaging another guest before I came on to talk to you, and then they said, oh, who are you talking to? And then I sent her a photo of you, and they said, ask her what she does for her shoulders, because I want to know. So what the hell do you do for your shoulders, Lori?
I do lots of good meat and potato work, man. I get in the cage and do shoulder press. I do lots of side laterals. I do bent over. I do bent over laterals. I do lots of dumbbell work. I do a little bit of cable work, but mainly I go big and heavy, but very controlled. Like I'm not trying to blow my shoulders out, but I definitely hit heavy rep ranges. Like I definitely on the build. And I also used to be row boats and was a climber, so I have back development from that. So when I was climbing, I had pretty big back too, and so
that definitely doesn't hurt, and that explains the forearms too as well. Honestly, the climbers are that's just ridiculous.
I also train forearms. So I learned from my first coach, which is why I liked bodybuilding, because I like to train my whole body and be complete. So that was another thing. I didn't want to have to hold back on certain body parts because I was in a division. So that's why I think I loved bodybuilding. So I do spend time training my forearms with my arm workouts.
What do you do for forearms? Because that's not something that a lot of people train.
I do bar curls.
Yeah, those things. Yeah,
forearm curls, good old fashioned wrists on the bench curls, barbell. Just doing that kind of stuff. Upright cable curl.
You're probably like only the dozenth guest I've talked about that has talked about like training their forearms. It's not something that a lot of people do, but I always tell people, yeah, it's like if there's any part of your body, and even if you're a bikini competitor, I mean, it's not going to hurt you.
My thing is, when you're bodybuilding, you're a bodybuilder, so the judges want to see a complete bodybuilder. You know what I mean? So that's bad. So to me, that's everything.
Yep.
So like I'll even look at like if I have like one bicep that's a little bigger than the other, or things like that. So like when I first got my coach noticed, and these are things you just learn that you don't realize it, but the judges are looking, because when they're up there splitting hairs, when you have a lineup like they had at Rising Phoenix where everybody's you've got the best, and they start splitting hairs, they're looking at who's not balanced. Also, they're figuring out, okay, who doesn't have, okay, her quad, that one, like I used to have one quad that was like visibly like bigger than the other quad. Then I had to work on that, because that's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of crazy stuff that we bodybuilders do.
I've always thought there should be a separate category for people that just like want to grow one side of their body, or just like their left side is huge and they don't even train their right, something like that. Now, again, my ideas that I have are a little bit out there, but I think they would be entertaining.
The funniest thing I ever saw is to get, because it's a family show, and they wanted to get the crowd involved. They had a dad bod division.
Hey.
So because you don't realize that most bodybuilders, we have like normal families, and we have people have kids and husbands, and the one thing about bodybuilding is you have to have a really good support system too. It takes a team, it's a solo sport, but it's not. And so there was one day that they had all the dads that were in the audiences and husbands. They had a dad division. It was pretty cool.
Honestly, that seems like a great idea, and I don't get why they do it more, honestly. And if I'm going to be honest, some of the guy bodybuilders in their off-season could compete in the dad bod, if I'm being completely honest. But again, that's part of the process. It's part of the process, everyone. I got to throw my dig at them.
The dad bod, too. They love it, you know.
I was shocked when that became
a Poochie golfer.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. And I asked you this question last time, but I ask a guest every single time. If someone were to walk up to you and say, Lori, we made a decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, what would be one thing that you'd like to see change? And it can be more than one, honestly, if you have it.
I wish it wasn't so expensive, but everything's expensive. So that would be my one thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and prize money too, honestly.
I would do more shows, but just with like I would love to promote more bodybuilding. I would love to go out there and be at all the shows, even if I wasn't competing. But unless you have some serious sponsorship or serious cash flow, getting to traveling and just staying in places and stuff. But because I would love to do a lot more. I would love to go to and promote all these different shows and promote bodybuilding in all its facets. And I love working with people too, and I love helping people and talking to people about bodybuilding but I noticed that there was it just adds up. I was trying to do that for a couple of years, and I almost put myself in a little bit of debt. And I was like, okay, I got to back off a little bit. I love the sport, but it's getting, but everything is expensive too.
Well, I would say prize money as well. Give them some more money for the prizes. Jeez, when this is a pay to play sport,
but you got to be in the money.
So, I know. So, there's a whole topic.
You got to be like top 5 or top 4. So
I know.
And the purses at Rising Phoenix were really good, and the purses are getting a little better. But it can be when you're paying for training and coaching and subs and food, and then on top of it you want to go out there and promote the sport and travel and do all the stuff for NPC and IFBB and stuff. It gets a little.
Well, it's just hard because I was a business major in college, so I look at that and I was like, God, I could fix bodybuilding in one day if I wanted to and make it profitable. Again, it would not be that popular, but it's like, and I know it's just there's so many things that a lot of people say that like they'd want to do, whether it comes to like divisions and placings and stuff like that. But it's like, honestly, these people do deserve more than they're getting, and I don't know if there's ways that they could do it with the format that they have right now that they could do it. But if there is any way that they could even like raise more money or more sponsorships out there too, everyone, just if you're interested, like these athletes, they work their butt off, and unless you're winning the Olympia, you're not going to be able to do this as a job, basically.
Yeah, and it's not just women's bodybuilding; it's women athletics in general.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a niche at the very top of a popular sport. I mean, the average woman a pro athlete isn't raking in enough money to not have a job still.
Oh, it's the way male athletes were in like the 60s and 70s, where guys would have to have jobs in the off season. That's basically where it's at right now. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only thing, and it's not actually complete. It's just it's an expensive sport at the end of the day. It's super time consuming, but I love it, and I'm not going to quit. So my thing is, I'm not a complainer. I chose to be in this sport, and anything you find in this sport, you're going to find in any other sport, right? Absolutely. So the things that you're going to complain about in bodybuilding, you're going to find in elite baseball, you're going to find in NFL, you're going to find in soccer, you're going to find in gymnastics once you get to a certain level. So, the way I look at it, you don't have to do it. You have freedom of choice, right? No. So, and I'm going to continue to do the sport because I love the sport and promote it. So, but
no, absolutely. It's again, it is up to the guest to do it. And I always make sure that I, state that as well, because a lot of people are like, these people aren't forced at gunpoint to do this. And I was like, of course they're not. But so, and I totally agree with everything that you've said. And Lori, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and talking to us, especially at 3 weeks out.
At the end there, but okay.
Oh, come on.
You know me. I'm kind of just like fun.
Oh yeah, she's all fun. Well, no, I gotta ask at least one somewhat hard hitting question. Otherwise, people were like, "Dude, it can't be an absolute puff piece all the time." So, but no, I saved that for Lori. I'm the king of teasing. Okay, so I know.
Dude, we can sit here and just tease each other.
Oh my, no, it would be bad. I would break you before, Lori, just because I have that killer instinct. And I'm joking, everyone, but no, this is.
See, if I wasn't on prep and you lived closer, we could just go to lunch.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely.
We'd have a blast.
Absolutely. Well, if only you were in San Diego too when I go to visit my brother. So.
Well, give me a message.
Maybe.
Yeah. 2 hours. Yeah, message me. We'll do a live interview.
Just don't ever come to Minnesota. Just trust me that you do that. Just trust me. It's not worth it. Maybe at this time of the year when it's nice out, but yeah, any other time, just don't. I mean, you were from the Midwest. You know what I'm talking about, so.
Yeah. Family's from Midwest. I'm not. I was born in Cali.
Oh, you lucky.
I don't know. I'm just joking. Yeah, California's not too bad.
Yeah. Well, everyone, go and check out Lori on her Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below. Buyer beware. You will get inspired to, get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies. But again, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, guys.